part of the Another Realm Media Network. Welcome to this episode of Mysterial Experiences, where we delve into the heart of mystery and the ethereal. Today we invite you on a voyage through shadowed realms of the unexplained. From spectral whispers to cosmic enigmas. Join us as we explore tales and phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, in a quest to uncover truths hidden in the fabric of the extraordinary. Prepare for a journey into the unknown, where each revelation is a step closer to unraveling the mysterious. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mysterial Experiences. I have a wonderful guest on for tonight's show, and that is Wendy Gallant, I found her when I was really interested around seeing without sight, and that's what she teaches, is learning intuitive sight. But while she's on tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're also going to talk about her experiences. And so welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you for inviting me, Josh. Yes.
Yep. I will admit that there's a couple of Facebook Messenger groups that get spun up around people who are trying your technique, and for the most part, I think most people have success. People are, as long as they give it patience, right? As long as they're patient with their growing in that learning intuitive sight. But you want to take just a moment to talk real quick about what learning intuitive sight is?
Well, I started out like 5, 6 years ago, and someone brought it to a girlfriend had brought it to me, my attention actually. She had her grandkids running around with blindfolds on, and they were playing hide and seek and stuff. And we just kind of went, "Whoa, is that real?" And she said, "Of course it is." So me and a friend just started taking courses in it, and we ended up taking, we took 5 or 6 different courses. We were very passionate, so we took some in Canada, we took some, and we actually, during COVID, we did Zoom calls with a couple in Russia. We did a month-long training with them, Mark Mizrov. We did also with Marina and Nikolai Denisov, which are both into this also, but they're into many things. But we asked them to come in and teach us the training for seeing without eyes, or seeing. Some people call it seeing with the blindfold on. Nikolai calls it seeing eyes closed, because he always just says the blindfold is just to prove it to people.
Right.
So, yeah. So me and my friend Rob Freeman, we're passionate about helping the blind. We're passionate about teaching the blind how to see with their mind. And it's amazing when it happens. I had a lady just a little while ago, and her video's on my site. She was 79 years old, had been blind for 4 years, and we became really good friends. And I think that was part of it. We had a connection, and she described my face very first session. And that did it for me. I was like, oh, why aren't all blind people being taught this? But it doesn't all happen that quickly. So with adults, it's hard with adults because we have so much going on in our left brain. We're paying bills. We have our kids, and calming that down is really, really difficult. And that is the main challenge for adults. Children, they accept it right away. And I've actually trained some people. One lady who was actually blind, her whole family had a genetic thing that they were all going blind, and she came to me, and I gave her 6 sessions, and she didn't believe she was seeing. So it's really, really difficult when you're doing this with adults. It's getting them to actually believe also. So
yeah, and I think that something that I'm learning with my own experiences and with a lot of people that I talk with is that the more you can turn off the left side of the brain, the more of the mysterial, as I like to call it, you will experience.
Yes.
Um,
The more you raise your vibration, the more
yeah.
you can shut that off. I think my biggest experience I had when I first started this is I watched a video, and I think it's on TED Talk. Um, it was the scientist who was into the brain, like she
Mhm.
studied the brain, and she had a stroke in her left, and it was on her left side. So
Mhm.
she lived in her right brain. And she actually recovered from it. It took her quite a few years, but she said it was the most beautiful place to be.
Mhm.
And that was an incredible video, incredible thing for me to watch. And I think if people could shut off the left brain and just experience what the right brain will give you, what
Mhm.
the pineal gland will give you, it's incredible. It really is.
And I know that, I don't want to get too far down on the brain topic, but I know that, so the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body and vice versa.
Yes.
And I think it's really interesting that I had an impromptu session was done for me a few weeks back.
Hmm.
I was at a MUFON event. We went to dinner afterwards, and we
Hmm.
ended up, me and another person ended up staying after. And she just did an impromptu session with me. It was profound for me. I received a lot of just fantastic information that was really validated what I had been experiencing lately. But she said that there's a guy that hangs out and taps me in my left shoulder. And I just think it's interesting the relationship between my guide is tapping me on my left shoulder, which is,
Yeah.
controlled by the right side of the brain. So it's just, again,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really different though, because I a lot of people say this is the pineal gland,
mm,
but with all the training that I've had and all of my experiences, myself, this is just myself,
mm,
I'm finding that I can turn on my pineal gland
mm,
and make a connection, but I can then go to train and I can't see. So that's interesting for
mm,
me. And so then if I just sit down out of the blue and just meditate to shut down my left brain, then I can see no problem.
mm,
So it's a catch 22, and there's been
mm.
so many scientists out there trying to prove it, what's going on, and nobody's been able to do it yet. So, but I just say it's just the mind. Anybody can do it if they put their mind to it.
Yeah, or at least their right mind do it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So I do think it's, when I was first learning about your method and the way others do it, and really for me, it felt like it's the same, almost the same experience as remote viewing, but just instead of viewing some far distant location, you're viewing what's in your hand or directly in front of you or whatever. So it's more localized, but it's the same
Yeah.
practices that goes into expanding in a remote viewing perspective.
When I was training, as I was opening, um, and I had no nothing to do with remote viewing, had no idea about it. But that's what was started. My first experience was incredible. I was sitting in the room, and my partner, who I was practicing with, Rob Freeman, he was holding up cards and everything, and he walked out of the room into the next room, the TV room. So he disappeared.
Mhm,
And I had the sensation that my consciousness went with him.
mhm,
I felt it, I saw it, went with him, and I stopped and I went, it was my first experience. So I was, I just went with you. And he just went, well, if you're in here with me, start seeing, like, tell me the
yeah,
colors. And I started seeing the colors. But that was my first experience of my consciousness going somewhere else.
mhm,
And since then, I've had more experience. I understand it now. And I feel it is the same thing. That's how I feel. It's the same thing, only it's keeping it here.
yeah. It's a lot like in my mind, and I like to speak in analogies, and so I like to think about it as it's like when you move into a new house. And when you're first moving into the new house, you might know where some of the rooms are because you've toured the house, or you might know how to turn on the water faucets and stuff. But the intricacies of that new house are only revealed the more time you spend exploring it. And I think this is true of ourselves and our mind and our consciousness, is the more we explore and map those things out, the more familiar we become with them and the more second nature or second sense they come to us.
A lot of the teaching we have is like it's a muscle. Your right brain is like a
Mhm.
muscle. We don't use it. So what our training is to, once you open, like a lot of people open and they go, oh, that's fabulous. And then they forget about it.
Mhm.
They walk away from it. And it's like, once you open, to keep that strong, you have to keep practicing,
Right.
even for a few minutes, letting your right brain know that this is possible.
Mhm.
And to just keep at it. So that's what I'm always trying to tell people, is that they need to practice. Yeah.
So now, with the opening of the kind of the right brain and the pineal gland and the things that it takes to do this technique, I'm curious if you've had other experiences that come along with opening yourself up to experience things.
My journey has been, I have to just say, unbelievable. It's almost like it's been a um, I've come to the conclusion that absolutely anything's possible.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've in the last 6 years, people say, hey, how come you've been fast tracked? Because I've seen craft, I've
Mhm.
seen just about any kind of a being that you can tell me about. And I've had them around my bed, I've had them in my apartment, I've had them, yeah, it's been an incredible journey. It really has. And it's been something different every time.
Mhm.
It's been, it's been incredible. I think the very first experience I ever had was incredible again. And to this day, I don't totally understand it. Maybe it was just to give me the drive to do what I'm
Mhm.
doing. But I was down in a conference down in Arizona,
Mhm.
and we were out in the desert, and we were sky watching out in the desert, and me and a friend, and we decided to sit on this huge rock out there, and we decided to just meditate out there. And it was a beautiful, beautiful, clear night. And I started to meditate, and then I see an energy being just manifest right in front of me.
Mhm.
And he was wearing a white robe and a white hood, and he was big. And I saw him, and I said to my friend, oh my gosh, something's in front of me. And
Mhm.
then as I said that, the being reached out and touched me on the forehead
Mhm.
right here, and then touched me, and then stood back and watched me. And I got a full download of energy.
Mhm.
I mean, I was vibrating. My friend was hanging on to me. I was vibrating. And this being just kind of watched me for a little while, and then it left. And I had that energy for months after. It was
Mhm.
so strong that I could hardly walk. Like my knees
Mhm.
would come underneath me. It was,
Wow.
and I was like, whoa, you know. And then on that same trip, I came back from that, and somewhere I got the flu. So I was really, really sick.
Mhm.
And I was at a friend's place. And so I decided to go in, and I thought, oh, I'll have a hot bath to soak it out, because
Mhm.
I was really sick. And I was laying in this hot bath, and, like just soaking there. And the next thing I remember, and I was in a bathroom that was adjacent to a bedroom. So the door bedroom was closed, the bathroom bedroom was closed. I mean, yeah, the door to the bedroom was closed, the door to the bathroom was closed. I was the only one up there. And the next thing I remember is something or somebody yelling in my ear, hey, like that.
Mhm.
I came up, and I was face down in the water. I would have drowned if
Mhm.
someone had done that. And I still, to this day, somebody or something up there
Wow.
saved my life. I got out of bed. I got out of the bath, sorry, and I went into the bedroom, and I'm laying in the bedroom, and I'm feeling awful, and I'm still trying to process what just happened. And the same being was standing at the end of my bed, and just standing there looking at me again. And then he just, like, he walked off through the wall, and he was gone.
Mhm.
But I was really sick. I didn't get any better, but
Yeah.
somebody saved my life.
Somebody
There's
saved your life. Yeah.
Somebody did, yeah. Yeah. So that was my first experience with it. And then when I got home, I was laying in bed again, and I had the same being at the foot of my bed, but then I had two beings in each side of my bed.
Mm.
And it just, that all I can remember is them just standing there looking at me. And the two in each side were grays, and the one in the front at the foot of my bed was the same being. I haven't seen him since.
Mm.
So that was the last time I saw him. So yeah, and it after that it just it
Took
really
off.
it just
Yeah.
crazy took off. I had experiences with Sasquatch that were unbelievably incredible, and I had a friend with me when it happened, and we went out sky watching here just down the road actually.
Mm-hmm.
And we were hiking looking for a place to sky watch that night, and as we're walking down this field, I hear a message: please leave, there's children here that don't know what humans look like.
Mm.
And I turned to my friend and I went, and he goes, I heard this message. So we both heard the message.
Yeah. Wow.
So we left. So we got out, we left that field and we went into another one. And we were actually right by our cars. And we were hearing all this crashing and banging going on while we were doing
Wow.
that. Like thumping and banging and everything. And it was really funny. I was with two other friends, so I guess it made it funny. But I was standing there, and I was standing in the front of my car, and I hear a rock go, boom, right, like on the hit the ground right beside my car,
Yeah.
like big boom, like this. And I turned to my friend, and for some reason, we broke out laughing. We broke out laughing, and as we broke out laughing, we both saw a Sasquatch face with the biggest grin that you
Mm-hmm.
can imagine. And I went, did you see that? And my friend goes, yes, he saw it too. And then we walked to the other side of this car. And as I'm walking over, I say to my friend, I smell flowers. And I said, and I feel love and humor, huge amounts of humor. And my friend said, I got a message. They really like you. And I went, oh, well, that's nice. So then I walked over to my car again, and I'm standing in the front of my car, and I'm looking over at my friend. And then I look down, and here's Sasquatch arms coming over my shoulders,
Mm.
down and around me like that. So I'm looking down, and it was like orangey, light brown
Mm-hmm.
hair on it. I was told they don't like fur. So huge arms. It was like it came down around my shoulders and crossed in front of me. And I looked down and I went to my friends, I have arms around me.
Yeah.
And he turned and he looked at me and he went, yeah, there's an 8-foot Sasquatch back there with his arms around you. And I went, yeah, really? You know? And it was like a total positive, amazing experience. And that night we saw fairies. I have a picture of a fairy that night.
Mm.
We elementals in the grass. It was just a magical night. And it made it magical that I had other friends there that were experiencing the
Yeah.
same thing. It was incredible. Yeah.
It's definitely, it's always nice when there's someone else that can help you stay out of your own way, right?
Yeah. And it was
The,
like the
yeah.
laughter, the
Yeah.
laughter. And I think that's what attracted him, is the laughter and the humor that was going on in there, because
Yeah.
nobody was really, because we had people, we
Right.
had people together. So yeah, so that was the most. I tell people that, and I tell you, not many people believe that story, but I know it's real.
Yeah. I mean, that's, the only thing that will ever really sway a non-believer is their own experience.
Yes.
And so, we don't, at least in my mind, those of us who have had experiences don't share them to try to sway someone to our cause. We share them to let other people know that they're not alone, that
Yeah.
a lot of people are having experiences.
Yeah. I being so naive as I was sharing them because I was so excited.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And then I wouldn't get the reaction I would expect.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't believe this, you know. But it's an incredible journey that I've been on. I have to say, incredible.
It's really interesting because I have been on a similar journey.
Mhm.
Mine started in August of 2019,
Oh wow,
and um, and it has been like a once it started to gather speed, it just has momentum, has just carried it forward, and I have had experience after experience and message after message and download after download, and it's almost at times difficult to um, give it the necessary attention and also give my other aspects of my life the
yeah,
necessary attention that they deserve, right? That I don't get
absolutely,
lost in the fairy tale, let's say. Not that
yeah.
it's fiction, but just that it's so enticing to want to have that next experience, to want to receive that next download, etc.
Yeah, it's the downloads and what happens during the downloads. I've found that sometimes the frequency or the energy coming from them is almost overwhelming for this physical body. And I've had a few experiences where they must have been darn close because I could hardly handle the vibration.
Mhm.
And but those times that happened, I came out of it with amazing um, gifts. All I can say. One in
Mhm.
particular, um, I was in Vancouver, and I was sitting in the living room talking to a girlfriend, and she just got told that she had cancer.
Mhm.
And so I was chatting with her, and as I left, and people have said, people that did readings for me say I have blue hands. You're a healer, and I'm like,
Mhm.
you know. And so as I left that apartment, I said, I'm going down to the beach to meditate. And she just said, put a good word in for me. And I did the same thing. I said, I'm not a healer. I don't know anything
Mhm.
about, so out I go. And you have to visualize this. I'm walking around the building and I'm crossing a busy street across to where there's a bench. And when I get to the bench, something simply just took me and sat me down
Mhm.
and taught me how to heal at
Mhm.
that very moment. And it was like, all I can remember is the directions and what they asked me to do and how they asked
Mhm.
me to do it. And afterwards, I had no clue where I was or what just happened. And that was the most incredible experience I'd ever had. And I use that technique, but I'm finding that it doesn't work. And I've had experiences where I
Mhm.
have cured someone or healed someone,
Mhm.
but I have to have whoever that is with me to do that. So sometimes I can feel when they come in, but sometimes if I try on my own, not so much. So
Mhm.
that's very, very interesting for me. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation.
mhm.
Um, was given the message by others that I've interacted with, people, humans,
Yeah,
that I'm a healer.
yeah.
And I went to a palmistry, and there's if you've got little lines here, that kind
Okay.
of vertical lines underneath your pinkies, that means that you're a
Yeah, I
healer.
don't have that.
And so, um, but also because like I'm a very analytical person and I'm a very logical person.
Okay.
And sometimes I get in my own way.
Yeah.
And so the phenomena has to give me more signs than it might have to give somebody else to let me
Okay.
know that I'm on the right track, right? And so um, what I realized eventually, recently, recently realized, and so and then it's really ramped up again once I've made this realization, but is that all that you have, all that you need to do what you are here to do, you have.
Hmm.
I have it You have it for your purpose. I have it for my purpose. And so if you are really a healer, then you don't need that outside influence. It's only when I think to myself, I need
Hmm.
X to be a healer,
Hmm.
I create the block that
That's
prevents
true.
me from doing the thing that I need, that I can do. I already have it in me to do.
Yes.
And so it's
Yes.
only when I realize that I create my own hurdles.
That's probably what's happening with me too. Because I can feel the entity come in. I
Yeah.
can feel whoever it is, I can feel them come in. One in particular, a woman told me that she also was diagnosed with breast cancer and she was going in for a biopsy. And so they figured they told her she had that. And so she talked to me again, and I said, "Oh, I'll concentrate on you in my
Mhm.
meditation." And while during my meditation, all I saw was like a white circle, and this white circle just got smaller,
Mhm.
smaller, smaller, smaller. So I didn't tell her that, and I never even said anything to her. But she gave me a call, like all excited. She said
Mhm.
they went to do the biopsy, and there was nothing there.
Wow.
She said they tried. They were ready to put this metal thing around it to mark it for when they were going to go in and do surgery,
Mhm.
and they went to do the biopsy, and there was nothing there.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's when I told her what I saw, but people don't believe when you
Right.
tell them after the fact. So, but I don't want to influence them,
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, we're not medical professionals.
exactly, exactly. It was,
And,
yeah,
I also think that um I've got a really good friend who says all the time the proof is in the pudding. And so he would call that moment for you a pudding moment, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Um and
It was
it's
incredible.
as long as you let that moment help you, it doesn't matter what anybody else is willing to believe or willing to accept.
I had just a girlfriend of mine called me and said her mother has a pneumonia that stays with her constantly. And she's a very good friend of mine. And she said, "Could you just give her, just do what you can do for her?" And so that night, now this one's incredible for me also. That night I did sit there and I did my thing with her and stuff. And I never said anything again. I just worked
Mhm.
on her and let it be. 2 days later, I get a call from her. She said, "My mother went in to see her doctor and they were shocked because she had a mass in her lung that they didn't tell her about right away. And not only was the mass gone, but her pneumonia was gone."
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And I never told her. I never told her a thing. Just never told her a thing. But yeah, that's like, so I do what I can. I seriously just do
Yeah.
what I can. So,
And I think that's all that matters,
yeah.
right? Is that if you set the intention and you
Mhm.
put the energy towards it
Yeah.
and just kind of hope and wish for the best,
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe that's all that's needed. I think, I don't even, I used to think that there was an element of belief needed on the part of the party who's receiving the healing. I used to think that they needed to believe
I've heard that also,
that
but
healing was possible,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
don't I don't think that's true.
No.
I've since come around on that,
Hmm.
and I think it's really just making sure that you yourself or whoever, if you're a healer, that you're setting your intention
Hmm.
and you're not
Exactly.
creating that hurdle, right? You're not creating the hurdle of they have to believe in order for
Mhm.
this to be successful,
Exactly. A
right?
girlfriend said to me that she loves me because I know nothing about any of this. She says she believes everything I say because I'm like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what just happened to me. It's
Right.
not like I ever experienced it before. And she says that I'm unique. I'm very honest and very, and that's why I get so excited. Like,
Yeah.
I had one experience where I was out hiking and I got the message to go off the path. And it was like, go off the path down by this stream and meditate. So I did what I always do, what I'm told. So down I go, and I'm sitting by this little stream, trying to fit on this rock to meditate. And I felt a craft over me. And as I was just kind of going into the zone, I felt something go like this because I had my head down.
Mhm.
Something go like this and pulled me up straight. And I don't remember anything after that.
Mhm.
Then when I came out of it, I climbed back up that hill, and I could feel, and still do, I feel the energy of every living thing, a
Mhm.
water, every tree, everything, absolutely everything. And I think the shock was I came home, and I live by the water, and I walked out to the end of the pier, and there was a fellow catching a fish. And I've told other people this story, and they're like, oh, But as I'm walking back, the guy pulls out a big mouth bass, and I hear, put me back, I can't breathe.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like so obviously they downloaded that
Mhm.
to me. And I've had the most incredible experiences after that. I've had gnomes talk to me. I walked through an area and they were cutting down trees, and I get a message saying, please make them stop, and
Mhm.
and I've had a tree. I, she's a 300-year-old tree I go to see, and I go over and I talk to her, and I touch her and give her my energy, and she gives
Mhm.
me her energy. And I just said, I love you. My hand was still on her. I just said, I love you. And I turned my head, and I see love hearts going through my
Mhm.
mind. And that wasn't me. And I was like, whoa, wow, that was incredible. And that was the same day I had them say, please make them stop about what
Mhm.
they were doing to that area. So that turns your whole, you can tell them, it was an amazing experience.
Right.
Um, Turns your whole world around to what's really going on.
Yeah, the for me recently over the last probably 6 months,
Mhm.
it's been all of a sudden I can see the energy radiating from around things.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's really easy on like power lines and street poles and things like that. It's just really easy to see it. Like on
Yeah.
power, I've got high power lines that run behind my house, and
Oh,
I can see the what looks like to me. It looks like an old style phone cord wrapped around the the power line, and I just see these. My daughter told me she saw it. She saw it as zigzags going up and down, and it's
oh,
the same type of
wow.
thing.
Wow. Very cool.
And so then I'm working on growing that. We went to a gym show this past weekend, and there were all these tables of well, number one, the energy at a gym show is just amazing because of all
Yeah.
the courts and everything that's there. But there was this big chunk of quartz laying on the table, and I could see the energy ribbons kind of pulsating or radiating out from the piece of quartz. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I have some here also, and I'll pick up one and I'll feel the energy. Like I'll use it as a protection.
Mhm.
I'll feel the energy on it, and I'll have a friend there, and I said, "Feel that? It's amazing." And they're like, "What?"
Yeah, I definitely think that there are stages of progression
Mhm.
in how we interact with the material. Um, when you have your first experience, and that first experience is like an initiation,
Yes.
and it's basically a knock on the door to see if you knock back.
Yes.
And then if you do knock back, then whatever it is knows that you're ready to begin your journey on this path of exploration where you'll learn more about yourself, the
Oh,
nature of the
yeah.
world, the nature of reality than you probably ever would have learned in any type of university or anywhere
Oh,
else.
oh, for sure. Absolutely, for
And if
sure.
you don't knock back, then it just keeps knocking until you do knock back. And
Yeah.
so people who have the same kind of experience over and over and over again,
Mhm.
it's because they didn't knock back.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
waiting. It's waiting on them to acknowledge. Once they do,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
journey to whatever begins.
It's just incredible. I feel every time I've had an experience, something different has happened to me. there was one time where for some reason I was seeing this, I would say Palladian, but I'd see this woman in my vision, just in my vision.
Mhm.
So I was out hiking one day, I was in the bush out hiking, and all of a sudden I felt the same huge energy again. And I had a vision of this huge Palladian male. But as he was phasing in, is the only way I can describe it, I was told to sit. So I went to sit, and then I was told, don't sit in the mushrooms. I remember that distinctly. And I'm looking around, okay, where can I sit where there's no mushrooms? And that just stays in my mind. And then I sit cross-legged, and then this being forms, and I'll never forget this. There was a gray that was bent over, and he was, I can see, I remember in my mind, I said to myself, um, remember his features, remember his features, remember his features. And I can't. But he was, I remember him bent down, and I remember him doing the same thing with his finger.
Mhm.
And then And then I kind of came out of it. And it was really stupid because I kind of came out of it. And then I get up and I walk back to my car, and I head to the city or the town to pick up some printer ink. So as I'm driving, it's so strange. As I'm driving, I had to pull over because I remembered being on craft. I remembered during that time, I remember being on craft, and I remembered them standing over me when I was on craft. But what do you do with that? I sat there for a little while, and I went, okay. And I got started my car up, and I
Yeah.
went and got my ink. But that kind of thing, just out of the blue, it'll happen. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, my own opinion is that all those things are meant for us to incorporate somehow some aspect of it into our daily lives. And I also think that it's not always at this time. Like,
Mhm.
you may have an experience now that doesn't actually affect you until 20 years from now.
Yes. Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I was curious if so we've talked about interdimensional or extraterrestrials potentially or ultra terrestrials. We've talked about craft and Sasquatch. Any experience with spirits?
Oh, yes, all the time. Some days they're all looking at me. I have to say, where it all started, I had the most incredible experience. Again, I was out sky watching with a friend, and we were on the beach, and I was walking down the beach, and I said to my friend, "Do you see that fellow standing on the beach?" And he looked at me and he goes, "I don't see anybody there." And I said, "He's standing there. He's got a white shirt on. He's blonde, blue eyes." And I said, "I see him right there." And he went and looked, and he says, "There's nobody there." So then later on, I was here, and I think I told you I'm a sailor.
Hmm.
So this person came in again, and he turned out to be a sailor, and that's why he showed himself to me.
Hmm.
And he actually started putting visions through my head of what happened to him.
Hmm.
And he was sailing an old wooden sailboat, and he had a crew. And the reason he was standing on that beach is he was overseeing his crew because he ran ashore,
Hmm.
and they lost. It was in a storm. He showed me visions of how bad the storm was and everything. He lost all his crew.
Wow.
He stayed there to oversee his crew.
Hmm.
So I spent a long time with him explaining that he wasn't at fault, and I understood that
Hmm.
the difficulties sailing back in those days. And I actually told him, I actually helped him pass and told him that, like, we all remember them. We all remember all sailors.
Hmm.
And there's a bench on the end of our pier here that all of my friends here put out there for my husband when he passed. He was a sailor, of course.
Hmm.
And I asked them to not put my husband's name on it, but put on it lost sailors in memory of all lost sailors. And I sent this being out to that bench and said, "See, we're remembering all of them."
Hmm.
And he passed. And after that, all of a sudden and somebody said, it's because you helped somebody pass. So they all come in and say,
Yeah.
okay, we're here now.
Yeah. It's
So,
you're like a beacon, like a lighthouse in the dark.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there are some nights that I hold time, I hold space
Mhm.
for wandering spirits to come and to receive a little bit of energy and go on the way that
Mhm.
they're supposed to go.
Mhm.
And in my mind, I kind of see like this like line that just kind of forms with, I usually get a name and maybe what year they remember as the
Yeah.
last year they were alive. And,
Mhm.
is there anything that they would like to express? And then
Mhm.
I just give them a little bit of energy. I always feel it. It starts at my feet, grows up, comes out of the top of my head, and then I feel
Wow.
them leave, and then on to the next. So
Wow. Yes. Yeah. I was, somebody said to me the night after that fellow, I felt so many in my little apartment. It was like overwhelming. And I had to just go, I'm sorry. I just can't
yeah.
help everybody right now. And they actually did leave and
Hmm.
leave me because I was overwhelmed with the very first one that I had. But I do see my husband quite often.
Hmm.
Sometimes he comes in full living color and he's like right there. I can see
Yep.
him. Yeah, a
You
lot.
know, and that's the thing for me is that, I always grew up expecting spirit to be wispy, white, gray apparitions. And I have never seen spirit that way. I've always seen it as flesh and blood, me
Yeah,
and you talking
yeah,
here. I mean, it just,
yeah.
so,
He came in kind of not like wispy or anything, but I could see his form. But then he started coming in full living color. And my mom, when she passed, and this is ridiculous. My mom was she was in 95, but when she was passing, I sat with her for days while she was passing. And when she passed, she gave me a message, and it was a happy message. So when the nurses came in afterwards, I'm like, wow, like
mhm,
they thought there was something really weird with me. And my mom's message was like a little girl, really, really happy. And she said, look at me the way I am now.
mhm.
And so I was like I was excited, and people walk in and they're like, it was actually very bizarre. but
Yeah. It's really interesting too. I've noticed that, especially in myself, since interacting with so many different spirits, I no longer regard death the same way I did.
No, exactly,
I
never. Yeah,
don't look at it as an end. I look at it as
no,
just a new beginning.
no, right.
And so it's really, sometimes it comes across like I find myself having to maybe put on the face of sadness
Yes.
for those that I'm there for.
Yeah.
When in all actuality, I feel joy that this person is now no longer in pain. They're no longer confined or restricted to this
Exactly.
physical life.
That's how I felt. My mom went, "Don't look there." That's the first thing she said because I was sitting at their feet looking, and she goes, "Don't look there. Look at me." In this little girl's voice, and it was like, whoa, it was the most
Mhm.
beautiful and incredible thing I ever experienced at that point in time. And so, how can you keep a sad face when that just
Right.
happened?
Yeah.
It was tough for me. I actually had to. I walked away from that very uplifted. I really, really did. Yeah. So, yeah, it's incredible. It really is. It makes the normal world very, very difficult to maneuver through when you have all this
Yeah.
going on.
It almost sometimes make the normal world feel drab. I don't know.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the best word that
I
I can think of.
I went out with a friend one time, and I actually took a course in this, but then I found that I didn't need to. Um, I was with a friend out, and we decided to go to this alpaca farm. And people have heard this story because I was just blown. My mind was blown. I'm standing there looking in, and I love them. And there was a full-grown alpaca and a baby, and the full-grown one was chasing that little one around and round and round and round. And I'm watching this, and in my mind, I go, "That's not fair." And the little alpaca stopped, turned, and looked directly at me, and I hear, "We'll do something about it then." And he just stood there, still looking at me with these big black eyes. And I'm like, wow, did that just happen? It was, but it stopped it.
Yeah.
But it was incredible. And I'm like, this world is
Yeah.
just incredible. Just incredible. People just stop. And I think about things that go on totally different now. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've got younger kids. They'll be 10 this year. And the biggest thing that I'm trying to do is let them keep the magic.
Yes.
Because I feel like as adults,
We
we
lose
get
it.
into this phase, we forget the magic, and then you might maybe you reconnect it later on in life when you have an experience that you can't explain. Um, but for a lot of us, I don't think we ever reconnect fully with the magic the way we did when we were little.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
We don't believe in it anymore.
yeah,
And little do we know that everything that we experienced as kids is real. Like
yeah.
that's like the thing is to see. I was meditating out in the bush one day and cross-legged, and I hear little steps in the leaves. Like there were old leaves on the ground, and I hear little steps, and the little steps came right up to my leg. I opened my eyes and I look, and I could see the the indentation of the leaves. And it was like a little gnome. And as I looked, he scurried off, and I saw the back end of him as he hid behind a tree.
Mm,
And I thought it was absolutely incredible that he felt safe enough. And I was at this 300-year-old tree again, but I think he just felt safe enough
mhm.
to come up and be that close to me. Yeah, it was incredible. I can say it's incredible for anything that I've experienced. So,
Yeah, the hard part I think for me is changing terminology. I used to use the word of unbelievable or wow, that was crazy, and it just and although it for me the meaning was it was an amazing experience, but because of the words that I was using, I was worried that it was another hurdle that I was putting on myself, and so I tried to start saying, I had an amazing experience, or I had just this experience that was, 20 years ago, I would have never expected to have it. And just, but just to reassure myself, even in just the language that I use, that these experiences are amazing
they're amazing and
and
they're real.
they're meant for us. You know?
Yes. I'm finding now that even when I meditate, when I actually feel the emotion, like when you get visions and stuff, um, when I get a message, I actually feel the
Mhm.
emotion of the message and when I feel the emotion, I know it's real.
Well,
It's incredible.
because the message that we receive has to be translated,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We only understand things in English.
Yeah.
Um, and so they have to translate those messages from a higher form of communication, like mostly emotion driven,
Hmm.
to a language that we will understand. And so in the process, that conveyance, that transfer of the original emotion that was being felt to the translation of English comes
Hmm.
across.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And the thing I try to get across to people is that the vibration of these extraterrestrial, I call star family, the
Hmm.
vibration of them is so high. It is
Hmm.
very, very incredible. Just recently, I had an experience up in my park here. I was sitting there, and I always sky watch, and I look out over my lake. And I was sitting on this rock, and I heard clicking noises beside me. And I looked, thinking that it was a bug or something. I'm looking. And the clicking noises went out front, all around my feet, and then came back around my side. And in my mind, I went, don't scare me. Like I didn't know what it was. And in my
Hmm.
mind, don't scare me. It stopped. And then I immediately regretted that. And in my mind, I went, what's your name? And I immediately got Atsu. 2 days later, I wasn't feeling well, and I had an afternoon nap, and I was kind of groggy. I decided to walk up to the park again. I walk up to the park, and I'm standing at the fence that's there. I'm looking at the sky, and I turn around to look at the sky behind me, and there standing behind me is a mantis being.
Hmm.
Like like a 6, 7 foot mantis beam. I didn't believe it. I turned around, rubbed my eyes again, and then I turned around and he was still there. And the message he gave me was that he was Atsu, spelled really differently. And he told me that he was from a different dimension, and I have to raise my vibration in order to hear and see him.
Hmm.
And then he faded out. And that actually reassured me that that's what we all have to do, is keep our vibration high and keep our, keep happy, and don't let these things scare us, because they're incredible.
Yeah, and on the topic of fear, I do think that that's the vibration lower or
Mhm.
decreaser. We'll call it decreaser. But it's that introduction of fear, and it's like I know that whenever I'm having in my earlier, a couple of years ago when I was having some experiences, as soon as I felt the inkling of fear, it would end. It would go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That's
and it's
exactly
that
right.
that fear is the oil in the water. It helps. It just muddies it, and it brings everything back down.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and
And yeah, it
yeah,
all depends on where your vibration is, for sure.
and so that's why for me, I also know, and I don't want to get too far into the world of things, but the amount of stuff going on in the world, that
Hmm.
that fosters that continuing feeling of fear. That's what really I think keeps us all as a whole on that lower vibration, is that we're
I
there.
seriously don't listen to anything, any news. I don't, there's nothing I can do at this point of what's going on in there. So I don't listen to it. I don't listen to news. I don't watch TV
Yeah.
unless it's upbeat stuff. Um, and in other words, I also try to do what I can for people,
Mhm.
type of thing too. But um, after meeting Atsu, and he said that, it's like they're giving me a message to
Mhm.
keep doing what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that was my most recent experience, and it
Wow.
was just incredible. Yeah, and they looked just like he was big with the hands and
Yeah.
the face and stuff. But and there was another time when we were out, when I was with a friend, and he said he got a download saying to give me the camera, and just as he gave me the camera, a craft went over top. Like the
Mm.
minute he gave it to me, and he got the message to give it to me. So I videotaped this craft, a triangle craft going
Mm.
over really, really slowly. And we got another one. It was really weird. We saw a craft coming in, and it lowered, and then we saw it almost looked like metal dropping, like liquid metal
Yeah.
dropping down.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Yeah, it did that. And then after that, another piece lowered, and then it lifted, and then it took off. So
Mm.
we have no idea what they were doing. It was over the water again. And we got that on film, but we had the camera cranked in
Yeah.
so far, we can't really see it, of course. So,
Yeah. And that's from a very I don't know, ufology perspective, let's say. I've long had a theory that water is significant for craft.
yes.
Um, and I watched a documentary a few years ago called "The Secret Life of Water,"
Mhm.
which is looking at how water reacts to various things. Like if you yell at water and then you freeze it, the snowflake that it makes is deformed. But if you love water and then you freeze it, the snowflake that it creates is beautiful and symmetrical.
They actually say if you bless it, then the whole chemistry of it changes. Yeah.
Mhm. So when you think about water and the life that it has, or the life that it reflects, let's say, and the fact that we are like anywhere from 66 to 74% water at any given time,
Mhm.
and these craft seem to be drawn to water, it
Yes.
would make sense that somehow we're all connected
We're all
in some
connected.
way.
There's no doubt in my mind we're all connected. And for us to be able to do this, we just have to wake up So,
So, well, Wendy, I want to be cognizant of time, and we've been on for close to an hour, and I know it's late for you.
oh,
So I first of all want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been a fantastic discussion. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Like I have said before, it's only way we lift the taboo is by continuing to talk about the experiences that we have.
mhm.
So thank you for that. Um, for anybody who's listening, is there anything that you would like to plug about, anything that you're doing upcoming, or a website they could go and learn more about you at, or anything that you'd like to share for people to find you and find what you're doing?
Well, my site, of course, is on Facebook. It's Learning Intuitive site. And also on there, there's all the information on how to learn this. There's steps and there's books and there's videos and everything on there. And it's a place for everyone to share and to find partners to practice with and ask questions. And yeah, it's building quickly. I'm amazed at how many people are coming in asking
Mhm.
questions now. And I'm always sending them over to my YouTube, which is under the same name, Learning Intuitive Site. And it has all of my craft videos also on there, and also all the training that I've done from the very beginning and people that I have trained. And I try to put anything that might be helpful for people that are wanting to learn this. And my site is basically to people to ask questions and to learn what's possible. Yeah.
A learning community.
Yes, that's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, very, very, very good. And I will, for anybody who's listening, if you're look at the description on Spotify or in YouTube, there'll be links to Wendy's Facebook group as well as her YouTube channel. So,
Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, and
so,
we're talking about having a group session in June.
oh,
It is definite now, but we're thinking of having a group session because we feel that having the group energy would
mhm.
help people a little more. And we're aiming at mostly blind people, but if we can't fill all the places for blind, then we're going to be opening it up to everyone else too. So,
Well, if you do, I'll definitely try to work it into my calendar. I would love to be there. So,
okay, awesome.
all right.
Okay, sounds good.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
again. Thank you everyone who listened. Please share if this resonated with you and you'd like to share it with others. Please do so, and please subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel. That would be greatly appreciated. So until we speak again, have a good afternoon.
Thank you.